on next to our next fireside session, and that will be moderated by Raymond Chow, Chairman of PwC APAC and China. He will be joined by Forrest Lin, President of Tencent Financial Technology, to discuss from a fintech perspective how to build resilience during a pandemic. Now, prior to this role, Forrest was the managing partner of Tencent Investment, leading Tencent's domestic and international equity investments. He has rich experiences in e-commerce, internet finance, online to offline, and the media and content industry. So let's now go over to Raymond and Forrest to find out how Tencent FinTech has been navigating the COVID-19 crisis.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Raymond Chow, Chairman of PwC Asia Pac, and also the Chairman and CEO of PwC China. Let me first thank the Monetary Authority of Singapore for inviting me to host this fireside chat with Forrest Lin, the President of Tencent Financial Technology, and I'll introduce him a little bit more shortly. Now, almost a year in, the pandemic continues to consume every aspect of our lives, from the way we work to the way we live. Every business is drawn in to look into and reconsider and rethink their strategy through execution, considering the business model, changing the business model. Almost every industry has been hit hard, except for a few. And FinTech is certainly one of them, that arguably the pandemic has actually propelled its growth. Over the past few years, we've seen the rise of fintechs, particularly the important role that they play in reaching out to the underserved in the traditional market. While seen as disruptors and competitors initially, traditional players are going or have already gone into partnerships with fintech companies, tapping into the latest capabilities in digital, big data, data analytics to create unique offerings and improve customer experience. The global fintech market is expected to reach a market value of approximately $305 billion by 2025. And China is expected to be at the forefront of this growth. More than 80% of its consumers use fintech services. It was already on a journey towards becoming a cashless society way before the pandemic made this a necessity. China's mobile payment has reached US $29 trillion this year, already accounts for 4 out of every 5 payments. On behalf of PwC, I'm delighted to host this fireside chat and introduce to you Forrest Lin. As I said, Forrest is the President of Tencent Financial Technology and a Corporate Vice President of Tencent Holdings Limited. He oversees the company's payment platform, wealth management, securities, and other fintech services. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Tencent. The company's WeChat Pay runs inside the WeChat messaging app, which has 1.2 billion monthly active users. Forrest, thank you for joining this morning. Me this morning at this fireside chat.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, let me start off with the impact of COVID-19. Now, tell us what the experience of COVID-19 has been like for Tencent FinTech business.
Yeah, COVID-19 has been a difficult blow for a lot of people, especially in the business world. For us, I think the first thing that we try to make sure is the safety of our employees. So we, at very early of the days, we shut down our office and make sure everyone can work from home. Of course, we also realize our social responsibility. So there's a global and a domestic fund, COVID-19 fighting COVID-19 fund that announced about 300 million. Basically, at first we were trying to organize the international supplies and equipment into China, and later it had become the other way. But we were trying to fulfill our social responsibility. During the peak of the pandemic in China, which was around late January and early February, actually our payment business was hit by a lot. The payment volume declined more than 75%. It gradually came back, with the contain and the control of the pandemic in China, especially domestically. And we saw the payment volume reached to the pre-pandemic level at around end of March, early April. And it has been solidly growth ever since. And now it is a very solid year-over-year growth for our business. So overall, it has been a hit, and we have been do our job and trying to both fulfill our commercial responsibility and the social responsibility.
That's great, Forrest. So tell me about the qualities of a business such as Tencent FinTech that make it resilient at a time like this with a pandemic.
Yeah, I think it's actually didn't came by one or two activities or events. It was a long-term accumulation of the capability. At first, when our business was really small, we probably could operate the business with one site of infrastructure. All the servers put in one site, it will be okay to operate a small-scale business. But with the business at this large scale, we need to have multiple sites. Actually, we have more than 10 sites now in China in different cities. And because of the virtualized infrastructure, we need to make sure that all the server operation, all the technical capabilities can be operated online. That was a capability that was built, over years of hard work, tool creation, team building, etc. And because of that, during the pandemic, although our business has this and that side of challenges, we were able to make our employees mostly work from home and to operate and to maintain the infrastructure virtually, and that definitely helped a lot. And so we believe that the technical capability probably is the first and the forefront on managed black swan like that. Secondly, it also because of our business model is more as a connection between the users and the financial institutions. For example, we are working with hundreds of banks domestically. We're working with hundreds of asset managers domestically, etc. So we were able to, work with them to diversify the blow on the market. For example, when people couldn't use their daily transaction because they were contained at home, they weren't able to go out to shopping and to spend. And if they say, oh, we want to move our money into a money market fund account so as to add accumulate some interest instead of sitting idle, we were able to do that on the back end by working with all the financial institutions. So our business model also help us to be resilient. And thirdly, I guess it is a sort of a company culture, which is a nimbleness. In this kind of a crisis, we also need to see what unfulfilling demand or what new demand are emerging out so that we can work on that quickly. And the one thing that we realized that although domestic offline payment went down significantly, the online commerce actually surged, and the cross-border commerce also surged, because people couldn't, go to offline shops to do all these shopping. So all the import and export commerces became a very important channel for users to satisfy their shopping needs. So we quickly launched our WiseFX platform, helping those merchants to do the high volume, low ticket number, cross-border transactions to enable that process to be smoother. So that's also called for nimbleness in the organization. So I guess, the preparation on the technical infrastructure, the business model that intrinsically work with a lot of partners rather than put all the eggs into one basket, and the corporate culture with a nimbleness to address new demand and the new need and quickly work out solutions for that. These are very important for us to be a resilient business.
Yeah, you've certainly been very resilient, and obviously the pandemic has created a significant demand for the benefits that fintech companies can offer. One of the let me turn to one of the big topics that I hear and I see out in the market, with my conversations with CEOs out in the markets and other senior executives, that I keep hearing. One of the major challenges today is obviously technology is driving a lot of changes. It's driving a lot of it's changing customer behaviors, and it's creating a new level of experience for consumers, which is desperately needed, and particularly accelerated by the pandemic. But one of the biggest challenges today, actually, and we see it, it's not just in the financial services sector or the fintech sector, it actually is cut across almost everywhere, is the question on trust. There seems to be just a general decline in terms of trust amounts, whether it's B2C or C2B or B2B or business to governments, etc. So tell us a little bit more. How do you look at this whole question of trust, and how do we? I mean, one of the major purposes of PwC, or one of the purposes, PwC's purpose is to build trust in society.
Right.
So we see a big role in that. But working with companies like Tencent, how do you deal with the question of trust, whether it is data security, personal privacy, et cetera, et cetera? Love to hear from you, Forrest.
Yeah, this is a very good question, and also very, very important question, especially given the current global atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I want to say, the trust issue actually starts from a very high-level consensus and belief from the very top of Tencent, of the company. When the company was founded at that time, we had a mission. We tried to be a respectable internet company. And last year, our mission and the vision was upgraded to be user-centric and tech for good. And both of these missions are actually, related, because we believe, we want to do good thing for the society and for the economy. That is the sort of the fundamental of a Tencent as a company. Now, going into the fintech business, that belief or that drive is translated into this business in a very specific way, because fintech business is not like the other businesses. It is fundamentally a broker of trust, right? Because you're transferring your capital either through the different regions, or you're putting your capital in one place and hopefully to get it back later. So you are actually a broker of trust. And because of that nature, and also when we studied the history of finance, we realized that, a lot of time in the financial industry, there are two things that's actually imbalanced. One is the revenue or profit actually precedes the risk. A lot of time, a financial company make the money first, and then the risk came out later. And the second nature of the business is that a lot of time, profit or revenue is grabbed within a commercial organization, but the risk is actually borne by the society. For example, the 2008 financial crisis is a classic example. People doing irresponsible financial engineering, making a lot of profit, but creating a worldwide problem for everyone, and taxpayer had to bear the cost. So because of these two intrinsic nature of the business, our top management gave us, the manager of the fintech business, even strict and strong requirement. That is, make sure you always look at risk, you always look at compliance, and you always put quality before the scale. This is actually the command that we receive from top management. So actually, I kind of feel I'm very lucky, because we have such a good sort of a long-term focused and the long-term view from the top management on this business that prevent us to, do very quick things for some short-term gains, which leave the hole for the future or for the society. And in order to counter those two sort of the intrinsic nature of the business, two things became very important. One is risk management, and the other one is compliance. Risk management is to deal with the imbalance between profit precedes risk, right? And compliance is to deal with the problem of profit contained within organization, but risk come out for the society. So then, because of that strong belief and understanding of the nature of the business, we were able to have the resource and the support from the top management to build a mechanism, build a system, build a team, put the resources in order to make it happen. So I think that is a very important sort of first step. You need to truly believe. Without that, if you just say, okay, I want to be compliant, or I want to, watch the risk, but you're actually doing something later, doing something differently, it is very hard, because a lot of time this kind of belief can only be challenged when you're making, the business decisions. That is when you balance, short-term gain versus long-term value. So that is number first. And secondly, with that in mind, then what important aspects of the business that we need to take care? We basically went down to a few things. Number one is a user-centric. Number two is a user protection, and number three is a control and compliance. We went down to those three aspects. And the key is to build a mechanism that enable you to make the right decisions for the three aspects. So let me touch on that one by one. Regarding user-centric, important thing is that how can you enable your managers to make decisions based on long-term user value rather than short-term user value. For example, during the May or June timeframe in China, in Asia market, the biomedical industry has grown really well. The share price appreciated significantly through the first half of the year, and at that time, we had a chance to as a channel to issue a medical fund, which is operated by a very reputable fund manager. And we debated, right? Should we, launch that fund? Should we be the primary channel to launch that fund or not? We decided not to, because we look at that sector and we realized the valuation has been too high, and our users are not that mature. They might be coming and lost their money and quickly moved out because they didn't know the long term, how to make investment long term yet. So we didn't make that as a primary launch target on our platform. That was just one example. So we need to build a mechanism for that. And secondly, it's about user protection. And you mentioned the data privacy just now. This is something that people are looking very carefully at and very sensitive on as well. As a major technology player, we view that also very, very closely and carefully. First, we have the privacy compliance program that enable all our products to be compliant to major applicable laws, such as GDPR, such as CCPA. This is sort of basic requirement that we need to have for our products. And secondly, you need to have the right team and the right resource to tackle that kind of challenges. So we have a data protection officer whose main job is to look into the various aspects of our business, from the product standpoint, from the process standpoint, from the infrastructure standpoint, what issues or holes that we might have in protecting that, enable us to identify the important issues and have the sort of collation on the resources to solve them. So that is also a second part on making that happen. So data privacy, is something that you need to look at very dearly and very carefully with the right resources. And finally, it's on compliance. We have worked a lot on the anti-money laundering measures, and has been also being recognized by People's Bank of China, people to in our efforts there. And later when we have more chance, I can touch more on what measures we have taken.
Yeah, thanks, Forrest. That was very, very useful for all of our audience, I hope, and certainly for me. I mean, it's no new. It's very certainly something that I'm very familiar with in terms of user protection, data privacy, compliance. This is what PwC does its best. I think we're running out of time, but thank you, Forrest, for joining me this morning.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
And that was a really engaging fireside session. PwC's Raymond Chow there speaking to Forrest Lin on how Tencent has managed to stay resilient through the pandemic. So a big thank you to both Raymond and Forrest for taking us through a good look into how one of China's internet giants is continuing to stay sharp and competitive in the ever-changing global economic situation.